This was a real situation. You know, the men and women that came and camped in the fields of Penturk after the event lied about their identity. They first said that they were a fracking survey team, which did not go down well in the village. And then they told everybody that they were Vodafone doing field research.
Yeah, can you go in on this a bit? Because this is really interesting.
And I only found out about these people through the local Penturk hub. You know, they were actually camped behind a thicket of trees behind my house. But because they were behind the trees, I couldn't see them from my house. So it kind of tweaked my curiosity that we'd been told different stories. And Stephen had come over again and decided that we'd take my small dog for a walk under the guise of taking the dog for a walk. And as we approached the gate, so we were approached by two soldiers wearing full digital camouflage, carrying guns. These guns did not have yellow caps in the end of the barrels, and their magazines were black. They were not coloured, which implied that they were carrying live rounds. These guns did not look like they'd been dragged around on exercise anywhere, like they'd been stripped and oiled that morning. They looked brand new. We were told they were doing a military exercise in case of an emergency situation, if we saw anything funny going on in the fields. So now we have three stories. They're a fracking survey team, they're Vodafone, or they're doing a military exercise. But I have to say, no military exercise has ever been listed for those people. And they were military, even though they lied about their identity. And it's their duty to tell me who they are if I ask them who they are. It's their duty under the Training Over Private Land Act by the Defence Infrastructure Organisation. It is their duty to tell me, but they lied. Well, they were searching the field wearing forensic suits on their hands and knees where this pyramid came in. And if anybody would walk past, they would all stand up and stare at you until you were out of sight, like some weird cult 60s movie, for real. You know, David had tried to speak to one of the soldiers, and he kept twitching and looking around himself as if to make sure there was nothing in his sight. But he too refused to answer questions. I spoke to two men. We cut across the field where the campsite was. And the photographs that we've got, if it were not for those photographs, there'd be no proof those people were ever there.
You have the photographs?
Oh, yes.
I should also point out while you're looking at those is Mark Morris also talked about how there were like a dozen or 20 white vans cars in the car park of Smilock Woods.
Yeah.
All unmarked, and people who were going into there to examine the area itself.
They desperately tried.
So what we got here, like a Harrison, he's like, guys, by the way, right, we will be getting a TV, yeah? Harrison's like, we're going to be getting a screen in the studio because we want to have it, like, so when the stuff like this happens, we can put it up. At the moment, we're looking on the laptop, and then we're going to insert it later. But these actual photos, like, yeah, that's dodgy. That is so sus.
Ground penetrating radar. They had three, I call them laptop type devices. I know what a laptop looks like, and this was not a laptop. As we cut across the field, so we were charged at by a huge dog I now know to be some kind of pit bull type of dog. And I shouted to the two men that I could see in the farthest tent, which I now know to be the commanding officer's tent. And I said, you're no country boys, are you? This is lambing season. Put your dog on a lead. The farmer's got a shotgun and he's not afraid to use it. With that, I had a what as an answer, which was my in, if you like. And I've walked up the middle of their campsite and took some covert photographs of their camp. And there was one man seated. He was in his 60s with gold-rimmed half-moon glasses. And he was operating a laptop-type device. Now, it wasn't a laptop. It was about 1.5 times the size of a laptop in a steel case. And he's pushed the lid shut on that case so that I can't see what he's doing. There was another man standing. He was the one that had the dog. I later found out was the security for that camp. Now, I asked them who they were. Their answer was to ask me who I was. And I said, I'm a local resident. Who are you? And they, again, said that they were Vodafone. Well, with that, we've gone And Donna, one of my other neighbours, had said, "Did you get any more photographs? That's not enough," and she's gone back out again with my dog. And at the end of the trail where the red Jeep is parked, there's a disused quarry. And the road for the quarry is lower than the trail. And so she was able to get around and underneath these people to hear what they were saying. And they had 3 of those laptop-type devices. And the only reason you'd need 3 is to triangulate something. And they were triangulating a satellite into that area. For real.
It's about the only thing that makes sense.
Right. They were looking for something. Hurry up, find it, which is what they were saying. And they did take something away in a bag. The people wearing forensic suits that were searching the fields on their hands and knees took something away, and they kept turning around behind them to make sure that they weren't being watched. Well, that night we decided we'd go out and we'd skywatch to see what these people were doing. And the one man that I'd seen with the dog earlier was in camp, and he was snapping nightsticks and putting them around the camp. And I don't know where the rest of the team were, whether they were out being debriefed somewhere. They were soldiers, let's call them what they are. They were soldiers. And we've had that now, proof from the MOD. Anyway, he's come over to ask us what we're doing. And I said, we're sky watching. Are you here because of the UFO?
Oh, what you said?
Oh, yeah. And no. We don't know anything about that. But he didn't ask anything about it either, which I found was extremely suspicious. Yeah. Now, I'd asked some other people to come down because these people were weird, to say the least. And with that, the rest of the crew had come back. So he'd let them in through the gate and they'd all gone back to the campsite. And then he came back and he said, will you be here for long? And I said, well, we'll be here for as long as the sky is clear, And I did ask him earlier, for the benefit of the other people there, why were they searching the fields wearing forensic suits? Bearing in mind they told me they were Vodafone. He said we were looking for mock mines. And I said, would you often send civilians to look for mines wearing paper suits? I said, because it's a sure way to find them. Boom, there goes another one. Yeah. But he didn't think that was funny. We did. Anyway.
You send Vodafone out to do that as well, do you?
Well, yeah. I said, bearing in mind that they told me they were Vodafone, and he said that they were looking for mines wearing paper suits. So I thought, well, that's a sure way to find them. At the expense of a few human lives,
Yeah.
Anyway, he came out and he said, will you be here for long? And I said, well, I'll be here for as long as the sky is clear. He said, well, my commanding officer's not going to like that. So I looked at Steve and the others and I said, I didn't know Vodafone had a commanding officer. So he said, well, he's going to want to speak to you. I said, fine. I said, go and get him. So he did. And this very stocky, angry man came marching over. You're trespassing. Have you got permission to be here? I said, I don't need permission. That's a public footpath. So he got a bit more animated. He was, no, that's a public footpath. And I said, are you joking? I said, that's like 12 feet away. And this was the moment that I realized that I had PTSD because it was happening to me. I didn't know. And he asked me for ID. I said, I don't need to show you anything. I said, I remember the fascist war movies where they get on the train and ask you for your ID. I said, we fought 2 world wars, so we'd have the right to be free. I said, and as long as we're not breaking the law or hurting anybody, I said, I got a goddamn right to be here. But I was shouting it by that point. I went from 0 to 100.
Real quick. And he just stood there quite dumbstruck and said, I admire your passion. I thought, it's not passion, it's our rights and people don't know it anymore. But with that, he's gone back to the campsite and didn't say another word that night. The next morning, they were gone, but we combed the area and we found a partial letterhead had the letters CSABA written on them and a partial Hungarian telephone number. And I always thought letters CSABA were an abbreviation for something. But it's a man's name, Sazba, who's based in Hungary. And he's head of cybersecurity for the entire world. Why is it we've all got the same cybersecurity? Now cybersecurity has a whole new meaning for me because they were triangulating a satellite, I think, to distort the frequency
I think Ross Coulthard was kind enough to tell us that the military are monitoring for a frequency to know when these craft are, quote, going to appear and to be able to track them. And they're using the satellites Galileo and GPS in order to do that.
It's got something to do with the EMF, and I was
I wanted to
go into maybe suggest maybe we could get into that because
well, there's just two questions I'd like to ask before we go into this. All right, the first one is: do you think that when they shot down that craft, was there any bodies on there? Was there any extraterrestrial life? Do you think this was extraterrestrial in live form?
I didn't see any of Spielberg's funny-looking aliens.
Yeah, Hollywood's
but
perception.
The craft themselves appeared to be alive, like they were the essence of life encapsulated in these things. Just the pure essence of life.
Okay.
Not any aliens.
Okay, and secondly, I think the strong thing with you, Kaz, is like you said, you was never into UFOs before, and the thing that's telling me that this is really genuine is because you're not going on to the next UFO. Oh, look at this sighting in Aberdeen last year. Look at this one in Gloucester, and look at this. I say Gloucester because you're from Gloucester, but these places you are just infatuated with this because this happened to you. Yeah,
it did happen to me, and if I wasn't threatened and my family weren't threatened, I don't think I would have come forward. But no one's going to threaten my family. No one. My only aim for this is to get disclosure in the United Kingdom, for the British government to instigate a process of disclosure. We will be starting a petition. If I get 10,000 signatures, I can have a question raised in Parliament. But after they laughed at Rendlesham, I want 100,000 signatures. So I can place that petition in the hands of the Prime Minister himself and ask for a change in the law. This is what this country needs. I'm sick of seeing, the perpetual circle of people being interviewed and telling the same stories over and over again. And in 80 years since Roswell, no one's done a goddamn thing about it. And I intend to. This needs to be done for all our sakes, because what they did that night was not only illegal and unjust, but affects us all. 50% of the population of this world know what's going on, so why can't the rest of us? If we're facing a threat, let us face it together, because we are one race and we are one planet. And if anything happens because of what they have done, we're never going to know about it. We're going to be sitting ducks. Please give us the opportunity to defend ourselves if that's the case.